Welcome to the latest run of the SR7mm group. On this occasion, the filming technique has changed and two cameras have been used to hopefully provide a better perspective. The first scene is taken from the south end of Coulsdon Station, where Coulsdon C operates, and the unit immediately on the right is the 4 sub, and arriving in platform 3 is the 4 EPB. This will go to Smithfield, and the 4 sub has just arrived from Smithfield. The 4 sub is now departing for the berthing sidings. Again, I must apologise, the signalling at this end of the station isn't operational yet, but it will be soon. We've now changed perspective slightly and we're now looking towards Coulsdon C box, and arriving is one of our 2H units. This is run from Warrior Square and will be berthed in the berthing siding. This is quickly followed by a milk train which is run from Warrior Square and which is headed by a 700 class black motor. We have enough stock to actually run 2 milk trains. These are 4 Daypole units, all in a cooperative wholesale society livery. We've now moved to the Coulsdon A end using the truck mounted camera, and moving away from the camera is a Maunsell Q class hauling half the excursion train, which I have been building. The other half isn't actually built yet, but the 3 carriages that are on show are running nicely. Another scene looking towards the north end of Coulsdon Station. The signalling that is immediately on the right is operational, and on the far left hand side of the screen you can see the excursion train, which is actually on the Bexhill approach tracks. There will be a scenic brake installed here, but this is not a priority at the moment, as it's more important to actually get the railway working and performing correctly before we concentrate on major scenery efforts. Again, a view looking towards Coulsdon Station. The camera is actually parked on the locomotive spur, which is used for turning trains in platforms 3 and 4 at Coulsdon. There is an example of this later on. Departing on the left is an express hauled by a standard 4MT 264 tank, which is bound for Great Victoria Street. And in the next scene, the express is actually arriving in platform 1 at Coulsdon, which is on the right hand side of the screen, which you can just see in the distance. And if you watch the signalling at the end of platform 1, you will see that it is operational. It's operated by servos, and I'm currently working on getting the 2 Trident signals in the middle of the screen, which actually have 8 arms between them. I'm currently getting those working. Again, the same view from the locomotive spur, and approaching on the connecting line is 2 bill units which have run from Smithfield, and they run directly into Bexhill. There's a slight problem here with the electrics, which is to do with the signalling, but it can't be actually made seamless until the signalling is installed, which is something again that I'm working on at the moment. The purpose of the link line is actually dual-fold. It provides a route for the electric trains directly into Bexhill, where one platform is electrified, but it also is capable of accepting trains from all the other lines and is used when the weather is bad and we can't run outside. Although it's a single line, we have to adjust the volume of trains accordingly. This is closely followed by another single 2 bill unit which is run into platform 4. This is run from Southwark, and it will be berthed in the carriage sidings at the far end of Coulsdon C, where I'm operating. and this will run back to Smithfield later. The next train on view is an express from Great Victoria Street to Bexhill, which is hauled by a Brighton Atlantic 32424 Beachy Head. It's another one of my locomotives, and I'm actually too scared to line it because it's a great performer. It easily handles 6 carriages. They're all metal carriages. The rake is extremely heavy, and I'm very proud of it personally, but I'm just too scared to do the lining on because I'm worried that I will detract from the actual performance of the locomotive. The camera is now going to be moved back along the engine spur towards Great Victoria Street, and you can see Ian on the right hand side of the screen sitting in the Coulsdon A operating position. The framework in the immediate foreground is actually the supports for the Coulsdon A signal box, which is based on the one that used to stand at Walworth Road coal sidings, which is on the London Chatham Dover link into Blackfriars. Passing on the left is the single car MLV, which is run from Smithfield, and this runs to Coulsdon, where it is placed in the parcels bay. Passing on the left also is the excursion train, this time hauled out of Bexhill by a Guest Adams Radial 442 tank. Coulsdon A is a very, very busy place to operate. It's the hub of the whole railway. The lever frame that Ian is sitting at is 40 levers. And although not all the signals actually operate as yet, it is necessary to work the levers because most of them control electrical sections and isolating sections. The position also has 6 controllers. There's one for the up and down electric lines, which are the pair in the centre on the left, and another pair of controllers for the up and down main, which are the pair on the right. There are also 2 further controllers which control the 2 lines which are run behind the operating position here, and these control the loop lines which provide a continuous run when necessary. The train now approaching is the other milk train, and this is hauled by a radial tank, an E4. This consists of 3 milk tankers and a PMV guards brake. This is run from Southwark, and the locomotive will run round in platforms 3 and 4 at Coulsdon. The locomotive will run into the engine spur, which you will see in a minute, and then the train will be reformed and it will be sent round to the Fiddle Yard, which is beyond Great Victoria Street. This is quite an operation because it needs the cooperation of Coulsdon A and the Coulsdon C signalman and operator to do this. Approaching on the right is the excursion set, again hauled by the Adams radial tank, which you saw leaving Bexhill earlier. This has completed a complete circle and is now running towards Great Victoria Street. As you can see, all our operations are done between the operating positions using a telephone system. This is how we run when we are running in an ad hoc mode, which we tend to do at the moment. We're not. We have run timetables in the past, but at the moment we're still developing the railway, and it's not quite fit for purpose for timetabled operation. The locomotive immediately at stand in front of the camera, as you can see, is 32473. This is the E4 radial tanker, and it is based on the locomotive which is preserved on the Bluebell Railway, albeit in BR livery. This was made from an MSC kit by myself, and it does run quite well, even if it does have a rigid chassis. It does have quite a good haulage capacity for freight. The next view, the E4 radial tank is heading back towards Great Victoria Street and the Fiddle Yard. This runs through across a single line which is behind the camera, which I hope to feature in a further episode of these videos. We seem to have recorded rather a lot of milk traffic on this occasion. Here are the 4 Dapol tankers being hauled from Southwark Goods by a 94XX pannier tank, and these run up to Warrior Square. It's good to be able to run 2 milk trains because they provide interesting traffic, and you can add and subtract wagons as it goes along the railway. We have plenty of vans for churns, etc. The next train on view on the left, on the Bexhill lines, on the up main from Bexhill, is the local which will run from Bexhill, stopping at Coulsdon to Great Victoria Street. This is being hauled by an E1 440, which was built from a David Andrews kit. It's a little bit light on its feet at the moment, but it will haul 3 coaches with relative ease as once it's on the move. The final shot of this session, which is just coming up, actually records a little bit of a mishap. Approaching on the up main is the local train that was you saw in the previous shot, hauled by the E1 with the 3 Mortsel carriages behind it. The locomotive has got an RG7 in, and although it is quite light, it is quite free running. And the way that platform 1 at Coulsdon works is that the Coulsdon C driver drives it up to the signal, either number 40 or number 36, depending on which way the train is going to go in the up direction. And then once the Coulsdon A signalman pulls the appropriate signal, it connects the controller for its relevant route. However, on this particular occasion, I was driving at Coulsdon C and I was distracted, and because the signal is quite a way away from where you sit, it is quite hard to judge the stopping point, and I let the locomotive and the train run on beyond the signal. I'm being told off by Ian, but he's forgiven me and the train is on the move, and passing in the down direction is an express from Great Victoria Street to Bexhill, hauled by a Class 33. And with the passing of those 2 trains at Coulsdon A, that concludes this segment of the latest run of the SR7mm group. I hope that if you have enjoyed this particular programme, you will view parts 2 and 3. Thank you very much. Welcome to part 2 of the latest run of the SR7mm group. Again, featuring the camera located at Coulsdon A. The first train on view that you see is a freight which is run from Warrior Square. It's going to Southwark, hauled by a C-Class 060. And Ian is still operating Coulsdon A in the background. Just to prove that the signals are working, if you see the 2 signals which are framed by the structure supporting the signal box, that's Coulsdon A number 1, which has just come off in response to the pull to the lever. The distance below is fixed because trains are expected to run at reduced speed due to the junctions involved at this location. On the right is a local service which is formed of BR Mark 1 non-gangway stock, and this was hauled by an M7 tank. This is running from Great Victoria Street to Bexhill, and it will stop in platform 2 at Causden and wait a short while before it proceeds. And in this shot you can see the M7 tank with the 3 Mark 1 non-gangway carriages, which is on the down approach to Bexhill. Just as a reminder, the 2 lines which are on the extreme left of the screen are the approach tracks to Bexhill station. Originally the Bexhill used to be up by the house, but by looping it round we get an extra 30 or 40 feet run. Approaching on the up electric line is our 2 null unit. This exclusively runs between Southwark and Causden and Southwark. In this case it is running from Causden to Southwark, and it will sit at Southwark in the single line platform there and return shortly afterwards to go into the berthing sidings at Causden C. The E4 approaches, this you may remember from the previous part 1 that it was on the milk train. This time it is actually on the meat train, which has run from Smithfield. It runs into Causden, and the locomotive will run round in Causden and take the meat train back into Southwark Goods. It's a little bit of a slight hesitation. You can give it a little bit of an encouragement. Generally the E4 runs very well. Approaching on the left hand side of the screen is a freight which is running from Bexhill Goods Yard. This is hauled by the 700 class, and this will run in a big loop, run round to Causden C, pass through the platform, and will either go into Southwark Goods or to the Fiddle Yard. Depending on which way it goes, it will either be on the pair of tracks in the middle on the left or the pair of tracks on the right. As I mentioned before, all our train dispatch is done using the telephone system. You have to seek permission, and approaching on the up line from Bexhill is an express for Great Victoria Street hauled by a Class 33. In the next shot, express which has run from Bexhill round the arc of the loop towards Causden C is now approaching platform 1 at the Causden A end of Causden station. Ian is setting the route. He's just pulled lever number 40, and the Class 33 Express is running non-stop through the station on the up main line heading towards Great Victoria Street. In the next shot, the truck mounted camera has been repositioned. It's now situated on the down loop, hopefully with a chock under its rear wheels, as there is quite a severe gradient behind the wagon here. The signal which is on the left of the track is Causden 12, number 12. It's fully interlocked with the point work, and we call the junction ahead Park Junction. That's what it's called. The signal box on the right, to the right of the Heljan HiMac, which is in platform 1, is actually marked as Causden B, but we call the junction Park Junction. For a change, the HiMac Horde Express is now pulling onto the up loop, which runs fully outside the shed and enters at the far end. It is probably taking this route as there's congestion at Great Victoria Street, for which the loop is very, very useful. You can just see in the distance the express entering the shed at the Causden C end of the up loop, and it will run through the platform at full speed, and it's actually going to enter the loop again and make another circuit. The two loops here are very useful for this, because if there's congestion at either end, we can send one train in each direction round the loop, and it eats up quite a bit of time. And the Heljan HiMac is now entering platform 1 yet again, and when the route has been reset for the correct route that it needs to take, and the signal has been pulled off, which is Causden A number 40, the Heljan HiMac Horde Express will head off towards Great Victoria Street. Should move at any moment now. Signal 40 is off. I can see it just above the signal box, and the Heljan HiMac is now moving off with Express and heading towards Great Victoria Street. The next scene is yet another train in the down direction entering platform 2 at Causden. This is one of our local sets. It's a Maunsell local set, and it's being hauled by a class 3MT 262 tank, and this is an all stations Great Victoria Street to Bexhill. The Causden Pilot, which is an O2 tank currently, is sitting in the engine spur, which is on the right. The purpose of the next shot is to actually illustrate some of the complicated, or the more complicated, freight moves that we undertake. There is a freight flow between Smithfield and Southwark, but in order to do that, it is necessary for the train to reverse at Causden. There isn't the meat train, which I mentioned earlier in this programme, which is currently in either platform 3 or 4, and we are undertaking a run round manoeuvre, which involves the use of the berthing sidings at the far end at Causden C and the engine spur at Causden A. It's necessary also that when we do undertake this move, that the freight train involved, or the goods train involved, has a brake van at either end. This is a requirement for this service because it involves a lot of messing around, and it is rather complicated shunting a brake van from one end to the other. There are no real means of running around the brake van. So approaching is the E4, which will run into the engine spur, and then shortly it will run back and connect up to its train to haul it back towards Southwark. We have about 10 or so brake vans in stock. They're a mixture of BR 20 tonne, 25 tonne, Southern 25 tonne, and there are a few Great Western brake vans which really are not in place because they weren't particularly all common user. But it's useful to have a number of brake vans, and at a pinch we can use a Guards stove fitted PMV instead. And in the next shot you will notice that the E4 Horde meat train is leaving from platform 4 at Causden for Southwark, It's a little bit hesitant, maybe there's a couple of dirty spots on the track, but this is its ultimate destination, Southwark. And just to provide another perspective, here's the shot recorded from the other direction. The three lines in the foreground, the two on the right are the up and down Main to Bexhill. The line on the left is the connecting line which runs directly, and you can see the E4 hauled meat train a little bit hesitantly, I must admit, at the top of the screen heading towards Southwark. We now move back to the down loop, and the express, which has been sitting in platform 1 at Coulsdon for quite a long time, hauled by the tender first E1, is leaving for Great Victoria Street. As I mentioned in the first programme, it's a little bit light-footed and it can only really hold 3 carriages at the moment. And again, we're still at Coulsdon A, and there is a T9 hauling the excursion set, which will be going round to Bexhill. Also approaching Bexhill station is a freight which has come from Southwark. And moving to our final shot, I've returned to the approach lines to Bexhill, and it is one of our 2H units, and this runs exclusively from Coulsdon to Bexhill and back to Coulsdon. And this concludes part 2 of the latest SR7mm group videos. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. Welcome to the third and final part of another day at Coulsdon, the latest operating session of the SR7mm group. And the first train we see, yet again from the camera positioned on the down loop, is a freight train which is running from Bexhill round to Southwark. This is an unfitted train headed by a Class 24 diesel locomotive. The next shot, the camera has been moved back onto the Coulsdon engine spur with the 044 tank engine, the 02 tank engine, which is the Coulsdon station pilot, positioned ahead on the engine spur. In the background you can see positioned on platform 3 is yet again another milk train. This may be the same milk train that is viewed in the earlier portions of this video. It's the 4 Daypole tankers hauled by the 700 class black motor. As I mentioned in the previous videos, we do run a lot of milk trains. Southwark actually has a dedicated milk depot which is capable of holding 3 or 4 tankers. And as I mentioned, we do have 2 milk tank trains, one made up of 4 Daypole tankers, which is the one that you can see in platform 3. The other train is made up of 3 metal tankers, one which is a twin tanker and a PMV for churn and cream traffic. As I also mentioned, it's a good traffic to run on a railway if you have the capability, because it provides the opportunity for ample shunting. It is quite a good kind of service to actually add extra wagons to extra vans, take stuff off, put and add stuff on. We have, as I mentioned, a number of suitable vans for adding to these trains, and when they are available and not marshalled in a newspaper train, they are used to augment and to be subtracted from the service. This particular milk train will shortly leave Coulsdon Station platform 3 and it will run round to Southwark. Generally our milk traffic runs between Warrior Square and Southwark, but it also runs off the layout into the Fiddle Yard, which is beyond Great Victoria Street. Over on the left hand side on the approach lines to and from Bexhill is the Hymek hauling another express train, and as I mentioned in the other videos, this will run out of the shed on the left hand side, run the whole length of the shed and enter in the far end, and this is how the train arrives in platform 1 at Coulsdon. The express from Bexhill is quickly followed by a down train which is approaching platform 2, and this is a miscellaneous horse box and van train. There are a number of horse boxes there, a couple of LNER ones, one BR one, a PMV, a couple of ordinary 12-ton vans, and this is running around to Bexhill for the local race meeting. And in the next shot, you can see the van train that was originally on the right of the screen is now approaching Bexhill on the track on the far left. This train will be put into the goods yard where there is a loading dock and will be remarshalled for dispatch at a later time, sometimes as tail loads on certain express trains, although I don't think that I actually have any video of this being done. But following on from the arrival of the horsebox and miscellaneous vehicles train at Bexhill, the Hymek hauled express for Great Victoria Street is now standing in platform 1 and is just departing for Great Victoria Street. This is a heavy rake, and you may remember it in the other presentations being hauled by my Brighton Atlantic. In the distance, you may notice on platform 3 one of our 2H units has arrived. This has come from Warrior Square, and it will shortly be removed back into the berthing sidings. However, if I remember quite at the moment, this particular moment, we were quite congested in the berthing sidings and we had to move something else before we could accept this unit back. So you can see in platform 4 the 4 sub is now approaching, and once that is clear of the berth sidings, the 2H will be reversed and put back into berth siding at Coulsdon C. The 4 sub has now collected its passengers, and although it's missing its route stencil, which should be 25, it is now leaving Coulsdon platform 4, and it will run up to Smithfield via the automatic section on the high level line. The 4 sub having departed and run to Smithfield via the high level line, it is now being closely pursued by the 2 bills from Bexhill, which run via the connecting line, which is the 3rd line on the left. These units run as a pair between Bexhill and Smithfield. However, one of the units is unpowered, and it is possible to shunt the unpowered unit into a lay-by siding at Bexhill and run the signal unit from Bexhill to Southwark, and this is done on occasionally. We've now moved back to the Coulsdon Sea end, and approaching the Coulsdon Sea end out of the berthing siding is the other 2H unit, the one that was viewed in the previous picture. This is closely followed by the 4 sub, which has now returned back from Smithfield and is going into the berthing sidings from Coulsdon Sea platform 4. Slightly zoomed in view, and the train that is approaching again is one of our 2Hs, and this is running to Warrior Square from Coulsdon. Rather busy location, Coulsdon Sea. The train approaching from the left is the fertiliser train from Warrior Square, which is being hauled by an H-class 044. We have a number of these locomotives and a number under construction as well, as they were very commonplace on the Southern at the time that we were modelling. The next view is our K class 260, which is hauling yet another milk train, and this is going to Warrior Square. Arriving back from Warrior Square is the other 2H unit. This is painted in a slightly lighter green than the other unit, but the darker unit will be painted to match. And the 2H is hotly pursued by the push-pull into Coulsdon, and this is also propelled by an H-class 044 tank. The 4 sub is moving off again out of the berthing siding to form a service up to Smithfield, and I think this is the view that was viewed in the previous picture taken from the engine spur. Our final series of shots is from the south end of Coulsdon Station. Platform 1 is in the distance with platforms 2 and 3 in the middle and the ramp at the end of platform 4 on the right. The track in the immediate foreground behind the bridge parapet is the Parcels Dock Road, and arriving from Great Victoria Street is the mixed horsebox train, which unfortunately shoots off a little bit, but this was going round to Bexhill, and it is viewed in one of the earlier shots in this particular session. The train that will shortly be arriving from the right hand side is the Hymec Horde Express train, which was going round to Great Victoria Street, and this is also in other shots on this particular segment of video. And with the arrival of this train, I must thank you all for viewing these 3 short videos. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen, and over the next few weeks I hope to film other parts of the SR7mm group's layout, some of the older sections, which will give you a better appreciation of how the whole layout works together. Thank you for your attention, and see you again soon.